With the nation gripped in royal mania, I'm delighted to be joined by Martin Jennings, the sculptor, and Her Majesty, the Queen Mother, behind me, to talk about royal commissions, and particularly two exciting commissions. The first is the Queen Mother sitting behind me, and the second, a really exciting news of the official coin effigy of King Charles III for the Royal Mint, producing the profile relief for the coins. Tell me how that came about.
So I was known for the three-dimensional public sculptures I've made, more or less all larger than life and all figurative pieces. I was on the short list among a small handful of sculptors for this commission. And we each presented drawings and I was selected. I couldn't have been more excited about it. It was a wonderful piece of design and sculpture to be asked to make. But it is painstaking. Every millimetre or half millimetre is worked out carefully. And yet, despite this very painstaking nature of the work, you have to retain the humanity in it. Mm. When you're making an ordinary portrait bust, you might fill it with the personality of your sitter. For these purposes, it needs to be an absolute likeness.
And it starts with a drawing, a two-dimensional drawing.
Yes.
And then the process to produce a relief, again in plaster.
I modelled it in plasticine.
Oh, wow.
On a wooden board. From that plasticine original, I'll take a plaster cast.
Yeah.
And that plaster cast then goes to the Royal Mint and they work with that. Last October, I was asked to come down to the Mint because I was told that they were doing a test run of the 50p pieces. So I said, yes, certainly, I'll check them all. And they said, well, I'm not sure you can check them all. I said, well, how big is this run? They said 9.6 million. And those have now gone out into post offices and banks.
So the coins are actually in circulation right now?
Why don't you have a look at one?
Oh.
This is the 50p piece.
That.
And this is the crown, which is a non-circulation piece. It's a £5 crown.
You know, you can see the hair, you can see the waves of the hair, you can see the texture of the skin. You know, you can see it all there. Mm. It's quite remarkable, really. And were you told you had to stick to a certain type of lettering?
Together with the Royal Mint design team, we chose a typeface. I wanted something robust and forthright. And then you have to integrate not only the spacing of all the lettering, but the position of the words relative to the form of the head. So for me, it's been a thoroughly satisfying project because it marries the two skills that I've been most interested in, which is figurative sculpture and lettering inscriptions.
Martin, tell me a few now stories about working with the Queen Mother.
Well, this is the second cast of a bust that I was commissioned to make for St Paul's Cathedral to celebrate the Queen Mother's 100th birthday. We didn't know how many sittings would be possible. I think she must have been 98 when I started, and the sittings were all in the drawing room at Clarence House. The first time I met her was with a colleague of mine who's a photographer. She said, well, I suppose you're really trying to see into my soul, aren't you? I said, it's really who you are I'm after. It's you know, I'm not trying to express, you know, great beauty or anything like that. And she just looked at me blankly and turned to the photographer and said, he's really digging a hole for himself, isn't he?
How was the process? Is it constant chatter as you're working around?
She had difficulty with her mobility, and so we needed to sit her in a low chair without raising her up at all. The problem then, of course, was that her eye level was a long way below me. Mm. So the only way that I could model this sculpture was to bring the sculpture right down low, and for the duration of all of the sittings I was kneeling in front of her so that I could see her face to face.
Appropriately too.
And she made no comment whatsoever about this. There must have been a lot of people who knelt in front of her.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
What I found I was attempting to put across in this piece was not only the soft, you could have an almost saccharine image sometimes in public, but underneath that I could see a kind of watchfulness, an alertness that gave a whole depth to the piece that had it just been a rather fluffy sculpture, it wouldn't have had at all.
The other version of this is in St Paul's Cathedral.
That is the original. This is the only other cast, and the unveiling was conducted by Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal with the Queen Mother and with the Dean of St Paul's Cathedral. And she smiled throughout and said to the Dean, "I think it's really quite good, don't you?" Which I took to be approval.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is actually yours. Where have you kept her?
She's been at home on top of my own specially made plinth, near the entrance to the kitchen.
Well, we're rather fortunate actually, so at this time now with the celebrations that are coming up, to be offering this lot for sale in an auction on the 16th of May.
It's going to be hard letting her go, but I do look forward to seeing where she will go and that maybe the sculpture will give somebody else the amount of pleasure it's given me.
So it'll be available for people to see and to view online.
Well, it couldn't be a better time for it.
It couldn't be a better time for it.
Thank you.
But thank you very much. It's wonderful chatting with you again, and I do look forward to the next time when you're going to give me some other fantastic news that we can talk about.
Good. I look forward to that. Thank you.